Hey guys, welcome to the channel, or welcome back to the channel. So today what we're doing, as you saw in the thumbnail, is I'm cutting down my cut to length axles that I got from Speedway Motors. So these are a 35 spline axle. You know, when you order, let's say, an axle kit from them, they only will do like 31, 33, I think. They won't do 35s as a kit. So I bought my axle housing from them and welded on my own brackets. I'll show you that here in a second. And then I also bought the cut to length axles. Now in the description it tells you, for example, you'll need this length axle and this length axle. That's cut to length, okay? So the ones I ordered, one was longer than the other, and they're both longer than they need to be by 1 1/8 inches. So I need to cut an 1 1/8 inches down from these axles based on the description that they provide on their website. And I'll put an example here of that picture that I took, and I'll highlight the two lengths that they need to be. I'll also try to put in the description what axle housing I bought and what axles I bought, for example, and the disc brake kit, you know, and a few other things. Anyway, so let me flip the camera around and show you what we're going to do. Now this is my axle housing, and it is going in a 1967 Pontiac GTO. So I cut the brackets off a rear end housing. No, this was not the original GTO housing. This was off a Buick Skylark or something. So the spring mounts and the shock and bumper mounts, okay, all those were cut off. And then I purchased these upper mounts and welded them on. And then I also added, you know, a jack point as well as a drain plug to it. Now, I'm building currently a 9-inch housing right here. This is all from Quick Performance, Yukon aluminum housing. But here is the cut to length axle, or one of them, okay? So this is the shorter of the two, and it told me I need to cut, you know, do it to, I don't remember the length off the top of my head now, but, you know, basically when I measured from here and then added the thickness of, you know, this, which was 1/2 inch, and measured from here up, all right? And then, so, okay, for example, let's say it was 28 1/4, all right? So I measured 28 1/4 and then subtracted a 1/2 inch to get my actual measurement. Because if you were to measure from outside here to up here, it's gonna add roughly 1/8 of an inch to it, okay? So I need to cut off 1 1/8 of an inch. And this hose clamp kind of represents where I need to cut. Now, the other thing you'll need to know is, see how they've got this beveled here, all right? So that way it will slip in to, in this case, I'm using a spool. You know, we'll need to take and grind that down slightly at a bevel, and then also file all these little grooves to make sure there's no burrs or anything on them. Now, how am I gonna cut it? Well, I jury rigged this up. So basically, I've got my axle level. You can see I've got my bandsaw, and I will hold the axle in place, flip the bandsaw on, and then we'll cut that 1 1/8 off. And then I'll bring that axle over, cut 1 1/8 inches off of it. We'll bevel it, file everything. Because if you try to put these two axles in the axle housing, they will not fit. They're just too long. And, you know, one of them will stick out like 1.5 inches or something. So that's why they have in the description the length that you need to have and how much, like I said, I measured to cut it down. So anyway, let me turn this on. We'll do a little time lapse cutting it. Then I'll grind it down and file it and show you what it looks like in the end. All right, guys, here is the chunk that I cut off. You can kind of get an idea, right, what it looks like. There's the grain, if you will. Let me tell you, man, that's a heavy chunk right here. So let me go ahead and cut the other one, and then we'll go ahead and bevel these and file them down. And then what I'll do is I'll slip them both in the housing here, and you can see, you know, the gap that'll be left between them. All right, guys, as you can see, I've got it. Oops, let's see if we can get the camera to focus. Focus. All right, guys, as you can see, we've got the bevel on here. And looking at it real close, I do not see any areas that I really need to file. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna slip the spool on here and just make sure, you know, that there's no rough spots, that it slides on nice. And I think I've got it pretty clean, so let's go ahead and do that. Now, just so you guys know, you know, the spool is not threaded all the way out, right? I don't feel the spool, you know, threads until I get, you know, that far in to the spool housing on this side, all right? So that's where the long axle here will go into this side of the spool, which will be the passenger side. And then the other side, the shorter one, will be on the driver's side because it'll be closer in thread, or you'll feel the splines on the other side closer to the end. All right, guys, and you can see, here's the two chunks we cut out. And if we didn't cut these out right, there's no way these axles would have fit in there. And you'll also notice, right, why the passenger side gets the longer axle. Driver's, guys, gets the shorter because here's the ring and pinion, okay, or the ring gear, I should say, and the spool. You know, and it will not, the splines will not engage until somewhere around here on the passenger side, and then they'll engage about an inch in on the driver's side. So that's why we need the length that we cut them to by, you know, Speedway's recommendation. So that's kind of gives you an idea of, you know, where we're at with cutting axles. Now, if you're buying axles, okay, and you're using, let's say, a stock housing, and you modified that stock housing, excuse me, you can still buy cut to fit length axles. You just need to know, you know, what your differential gear, whether you're running a posi, an open diff, or, you know, a spool, you need to measure in, you know, to find out where you need to get to cut your proper length. I'm not sure what the amount of engagement needs to be. I don't know if it's like an inch or an inch and a half, something like that as a minimum. I'd have to look that up. And if I find out, I'll put it in here what they recommend, you know, for length or axle engagement into a differential. But, you know, you would measure, like I said, to your spool where the kind of where you feel the threads start, right? Or I should say the spline start. And then, you know, whatever that length is that you need based on the recommendation. And like I said, I'll try to look it up and put it here. And then, you know, do the same thing for the passenger side. So anyway, guys, just a quick little deal on fitting my 35 spline axles to my Speedway 9-inch based on their recommendations, okay? So, like I said, if you have to, you would measure in with a tape measure and basically figure it out, all right? Hope this video helps you guys out. You know, it's not too hard to cut the length axles down, do a little bevel, do a little cleaning up, you know, and you're good to go. So there's plenty of spline on these to do, you know, whatever. So anyway, till the next video, we'll see you guys, hopefully I'll see you guys on a future video. Thank you for watching, subscribing, all that fun stuff. We'll see you guys later.